As a young man, I was a dancer, and that was one of the greatest parts of my life is, if you've seen the show Dancing with the Stars, that's the style and the kind of dancing I have done. Actually, I never really planned on being a police officer. I went to college and got a degree in fire science, and I was going to be a fireman. But like all good people in college, you get a degree and then you see something out there that you think you might like, and it opens another door for you, and that's what happened in this case. I would enjoy going to work and doing work just as much as I would enjoy coming home and being with the wife and the child. There was absolutely, there was separation in my job and home, but there was joy and fulfillment in both. We had made plans to fly. I drove out to the airport, and he lived in Riverside, so he flew up into where I lived, and I met him at the airport. After that, I introduced him to my wife and to my child. Then we got into the airplane. He said that there was no problems or what have you, so we got to the end of the runway. We took off. We got a couple hundred feet into the air, and what happened was, now that I am a pilot and I do know how to fly, he had taken off. He had achieved too high an angle of attack for the airplane to continue to fly, and we lost lift under one of the wings. We rotated, and we did a one-point landing straight into the ground. My injuries were upper body. My head expressly was severely damaged. And the unique thing about that is the firefighters that responded would not work on me. And the police officer, or the deputy sheriff that was there, he was writing out my death report. And it was only my wife coming up and saying, "That's my husband, work on him," that they even started to work on me. And they put me in the helicopter, flew me down to San Bernardino County, where the doctors put me into a hallway behind the emergency room and just waited for me to die. Spent the next 10, 12 years having surgeries and convalescing surgeries and more convalescing surgeries, and it took about 10, 12 years for that to finally take its course. I now have a metal plate in my neck holding C4, C5, and C6 together so that I can use it. I can't use it to the degree that a normal person can use his head. I can't turn it all the way. I can't rotate, and I get severe headaches and what have you. I've had 10 ankle surgeries, including a complete reconstruction on both ankles before I could walk properly without the use of canes and leg braces. I've had my right wrist rebuilt. I've had my left wrist was shattered in the airplane crash, and literally it had to be, it's what they call a non-invasive surgery. They actually put my wrist back together by taking x-rays, taking other x-rays, and it took hours, but they were able to put my wrist back together. Then I've had to have nerves severed on me so that I cannot feel the pain of my injuries. And that is something that I didn't know they could do, but in some places the pain is so bad I've actually had to have the nerves cut, not completely severed, but cut so that the pain pathways are greatly reduced. Well, what happened immediately was the pilot who was injured and the other 3 people that owned the airplane used the court systems in the 1980s to their advantage and ducked all responsibility. So within a couple of years, my wife and I were financially wiped out. We were just barely able to keep on to our house. My wife, bless her heart, she had a choice. She could have stayed with me or she could have left me, and she stayed with me. She got a very good job. She's still working at her job. She loves it there. And we were able to recoup our life. It took about 10 years, but we were able to get back up to where we were. And I thank her and I thank God, because it's the only way I would have survived. My injuries were such that I could not have convalesced without care, and she made sure I had both. The injuries started to become insurmountable, and I finally was asked to retire from the department. And that was a whole other issue that occurred as a result of that, because some of my injuries were work-related and some of my injuries were crash-related. a great opportunity. When I felt that I was recovered enough that I could try and go for employment, I went to the California State Department of Rehab, and they tested me, and they said it would be a short, simple test. Long story short, I was tested for months, and what happened was I finally went to see a counselor, the psychiatrist for the state, and he talked to me for 2 hours. And he said, the next day, I want you to see this person. And I went home thinking that, wow, if they had to send the state psychiatrist to see me, something really was up. And the next day I went to this person who was with the Department of Rehabilitation, and he said, Chris, you have scored so high on everything that we are going to offer you a chance to go to any school you want to in California, any university, and we will pay for your education. And it took a while for that to sink in. I eventually chose Cal State University San Bernardino. The school is very well suited for persons with my needs. And not just the administrative, but the staff was excellent. And there were bumps in the road for me, absolutely. But the way I look at it is, the bumps in the road, along with having to do everything that all the other students had to do, made me better qualified. It showed that I was determined to pass. It shows that I was a good student. And when I graduated this university, I had a fairly good GPA, and I have been invited to the master's program here. So this school has been very good for someone like me to come to. And that was, I didn't know it when I started, but I sure knew it when I got here, and I sure appreciate it now that I've graduated from this university. I'm saying this because of how I feel. This is one of the best damn schools, period. And I want that said. When I graduated, my outlook towards getting a job, I measured against what I had received at school. I did not know any different. And I started putting in the applications, started going to interviews. I was doing all the right things. I dressed appropriately. In other words, I did everything the way you should do it. And what I was finding out is I was going to interview after interview, but nothing was happening. And I would even go to an interview where the gentleman would shake my hand, tell me, you're the one that we want. Here's my card, here's my telephone number, you call me, we're going to set it up, you'll be on board next week, let's go, this is great, happy to have you. And I would do all the proper things. I would text him, I would email him, I would call him and tell him, thank you very much, can't wait to get on board. And it was like I fell off the face of the earth. I was able to get a job as a peace officer. I was able to get any job that I wanted. I knew how to do things. And using that information and that knowledge, I'm not so archaic or outdated that I should have not have been able to have gotten a position somewhere. But something was happening and it was different, and that's when I started to ask questions. I had been on the other side, and now that I'm on this side of life and what's happened, I never thought it existed. And not only does it exist, but it's well known among the government agencies. They accept it, that 80 to 85% of people like me are unemployed. And we are kept that way, and it's allowed to continue. And that's one of the reasons why I started Minds Do Matter. This is the genesis. This is the beginning. I was talking to him, and I said that there needs to be something done about the situation. And I said, minds matter. The rest just seemed to fall into place. I was told, be careful what you wish for because you will get it. I just went and I started to talk to people. And it started to happen. And the next thing I know, I found out there are so many good people out there. That's the one thing that keeps us so positive and keeps me so positive. The reaction I had when I went out to work wasn't actually negative, it was just what was accepted. The idea of the trip actually came from the fact that I have never gone anywhere by myself, done anything by myself. The farthest I ever really go is to visit a friend who lives just out of state. And I felt that what I needed to do was to start something here. But if I just kept it here, it could take a long time for it to get out and to to other colleges and universities in other states. So again, I was sitting with my friend and we started brainstorming, and the next thing I knew, the song Route 66 was going through my head, and I said, hey, this would be great. This is something that is an established route. There are some very good universities. It just all fell into place. That's literally how fast it happened. There are some good universities and colleges that are on the way. Why don't I ride a bike, since I am now capable of standing without braces or canes or crutches? That was a big thing. I was now able to ride my motorcycle. And I said, actually, I think I could have fun doing this. Start spreading the word, talk to other colleges and universities, and maybe do press releases and talk to radio stations and TV stations in places like Albuquerque and Oklahoma. And all of a sudden, the whole idea just took off from that point. And now I'm talking to various colleges and universities, and I'm trying to set up dates to talk with them and what have you. So far, everybody that I've talked to has been extremely helpful, extremely well receptive, and I cannot honestly see how this will not take off. Well, I'm hopefully going to start at the Santa Monica Pier, which is the beginning of Route 66, or if you're from Chicago, it's the end of Route 66, but I got to start this way. And I want to take my bike, which I have to thank B&B Motorcycles for helping me acquire, and they are going to build it and maintain it so that I will never have problems on the road, hopefully. But I'm going to be going from Santa Monica all the way to Chicago on old Route 66 as much as possible. And I am going to be talking to people, for just from people on the street to different institutions to different stations and what have you on the way. And what I'm hoping for is I want to start the idea and get it into people's heads that the people that are different aren't really different at all.